Welcome to the HR Chat Show, one of the world's most downloaded and shared podcasts designed for HR pros, talent execs, tech enthusiasts, and business leaders. For hundreds more episodes and what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit HRgazette.com.
Welcome to another episode of the HR Chat Show. Hello, listeners. This is your host today, Bill Banham. And in this episode, I am delighted to be joined by Chris Locke, Executive Director for Work and Family over at Bright Horizons. Chris leads the work and family business, helping more than 1,400 employers around the world support their people through every stage of life, from fertility and childcare through to elderly care and end-of-life support. Prior to joining Bright Horizons, Chris spent more than 15 years building ventures and large-scale learning and leadership solutions for organizations including Barclays, BP, NG, and National Grid. During the conversation today, Chris and I will explore how changing workforce demographics, evolving employee expectations, caregiving responsibilities, and well-being challenges are reshaping people strategies. We will also discuss what HR leaders are prioritizing right now and how organizations can better support employees both inside and outside of the workplace. Chris, how are you doing? Welcome to the show today.
Hi, Bill. Really delighted to be here, and thank you for inviting me on.
It's my pleasure. Now, as we like to do on this show, before we get into the hard-hitting stuff, Chris, let's just let's learn a little bit more about you beyond my wee introduction just a moment ago. Maybe you can share for a couple of minutes a bit more about your career journey and what led you to the current role leading the work and family business at Bright Horizons.
Absolutely delighted to. So I started way back when in advertising sales, working at the Times for Mr. Murdoch, but don't hold that against me. And actually, I think it's actually kind of a great skill that's kind of served me well throughout my whole career, which has sort of kind of moved away to sales and much more into then product, HR, innovation and growth. And so I spent a couple of years doing sales and then moved into the education sector, where the majority of my time was spent at Pearson, which was a fantastic opportunity, working globally with governments, universities, secondary schools. But what really kind of sparked my interest was the world of work and the evolving way of how upskilling and reskilling in a world of the new digital world was starting to be tackled by organizations. And so I spent a lot of my time at Pearson working on what does the future of learning look like for inside large companies, and worked on different kind of leadership programs, looking at introducing new styles, and really sort of focus around innovation. And then after sort of Pearson decided to kind of move into the world of innovation consultancy, which sounds as and it was great because actually what it did is it exposed me to a lot more organizations, particularly as they were thinking about the future of where their business is going. So a lot of the work we did was with energy companies around net zero, what the future of retail looked like, circular economy. And actually part of my role there was thinking about, well, if that's where those organizations are moving to, what are the capabilities, what are the skills that people are going to need to be able to sort of help that company get to where they're going to. And that was great. And then COVID hit, and that need for upskilling and reskilling through a crisis became even more important. And so I was very fortunate enough to be able to, with the support of the rainmaking of the company I was with there, was build my own startup called Aspire, and that was helping organizations kind of upskill and reskill their people around product, leadership and innovation. And that was great for a couple of years. And then this opportunity for Bright Horizons came up. And I'm a dad of 4. I've also got a dog, 4 cats. And so with an elderly nan and a mum who's moving into her 70s. And so actually when I started to realize about Bright Horizons, which originally was thinking, well, they're just nurseries. The working family was so much more. And what was kind of incredible with what they were looking to do is they wanted to see kind of where kind of we're seeing trends happening to. The need for the working family service is becoming not just increasingly or more required in just in the UK, but globally as well. And so it felt like an opportunity that an organisation that was kind of see great growth opportunity, had an incredible client base, but also more importantly, for me, it's a service that actually impacted people's lives positively and actually demonstrated really value back to the organisations that are putting in that support for their people. So I've been with Bright Horizons now just over a year and absolutely loving it, and delighted to be able to have the opportunity to talk to people like we'll be at Disrupt HR next week, but also with a lot of the sort of the HR leaders across the different sectors that we serve.
Okay, very good. So, in one sentence or less, Chris, what's the best thing about your job?
The people and the clients. It's without a shadow of a doubt, it's I get huge energy from kind of being a people business and kind of working with our clients and helping them sort of shape the future of their people strategy and see the impact that we have on their people's lives, and how that translates back into business performance is kind of what gets me up every day.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the HRchat Podcast. If you enjoy the audio content we produce, you'll love our articles on the HR Gazette. Learn more at hrgazette.com. And now, back to the show.
Love it. So, listeners, as Chris mentioned just briefly there, Bright Horizons will be back on stage, back on the Disrupt stage in, well, what are we now? We are World Cup day number 2. So in about 13 days as we record this interview right now. Come on, England. And Chris is going to be one of our lightning talk victims. I mean, one of our lightning talk speakers. It'll be coming up for 5 minutes, 20 slides, 15 seconds per slide. It's at the Personalize office on Shaftesbury Avenue in Bloomsbury. If you are in the Greater London area and you're interested in all things to do with the world of work, be there or be a rectangle. Chris, in 60 seconds or less, because the talk itself is only 5 minutes, so in 60 seconds or less, can you give our listeners a wee taste of what they can expect? And then we're going to get into the details later in some of the other questions, but some of those hopeful learning outcomes from your talk.
How do we kind of make benefits actually work for the people they're meant to? With the world shifting the way it's shifting and how quickly it's shifting, what do we need to do to think about evolving that? And how do we make it from being just one size fits all to being really personalized and tailored? So kind of the future's kind of the world of personalization around benefits to support a very different shaped workforce that we're going to be seeing over the coming generations.
Oh, which is a fantastic lead-in to my next question, which is Bright Horizons supports employees across every life stage, of course. You've given us a wee introduction to that. How has the definition of employee support changed over the past 10-ish years?
That's a really great question. And I think, if I go back to my own career journey when I was sort of 10 years ago at Pearson, pretty much your benefits package was, if you were lucky, it was your pension, if you see enough private medical insurance, maybe some life insurance, and a cycle to work scheme, which was pretty much sort of the foundation pillars. And as we've seen over the last 10 years, and particularly, dare I say, sort of post-pandemic, post-COVID, that has just exploded. And that really sort of starts to signify as probably a number of sort of macro trends. So, for example, the typical institutions that we used to rely on, such as the NHS, adult social care, started to fail. That burden of support to be able to keep employees engaged at work, be able to how to reduce some of that sort of mental load, has gone much more into the employer. And so they're starting to see sort of this proliferation of different benefits from, whether it's looking after fertility through to menopause support, now to end of life care. It's really started to sort of boom really around. There is really much support for the different unique needs that most organisations now see across the workforce. So it's become really, from what we see, is really far reaching, and it's great because employers do see it's part of that, making sure you've got what you need to show up to be delivered, not just the best at work, but also to be able to sort of bring yourself best at home as well. So it's fascinating to see how the sector's really evolved and the different levels of support. But interestingly, now from my point of view, I'm thinking it's a remarkable. I'm now watching some of my sort of eldest son's generation into the workforce, and what I used to think was kind of like remarkable to have just be offered to my client now seen as, well, that's just standard. What else are you going to provide for me? So I think it's really interesting, kind of where we've come from, but also kind of where we're about to go next.
Just as a quick follow-up question to that. This pod is approaching 10 years old. I can't believe it. I've been doing it since, I'd like to say since before I was grey. No, I think I was grey back then. Years ago, a lot of the conversations for a number of years was around the war for talent.
Yes.
How to be that employer brand of choice, these sorts of topics. It ain't like that anymore. There are lots of industries that are facing by 2030, 30% plus unemployment rates now, and being replaced by AI and automation and such. Are you guys seeing that trend now because you guys work with lots of different companies and lots of different types of industries, of course. Are you seeing some companies that, because they can be a lot more choosy about who they bring into the organization, which candidates they accept and all the rest of it, are some industries actually putting back on certain benefits because they feel like they don't need to offer them like they did a few years ago? I'm guessing there's a lot of sort of gold standard companies that would maintain the necessity for those benefits because of all the productivity gains, for example, on having happy, healthier employees. What are you seeing out there in the market?
When you talk to kind of HR leaders, and we did a survey back in February, so we kind of surveyed or interviewed 334 HR leaders of companies of 1,000 employees plus, and number one in terms of both what they were measured success on and what they were trying to achieve, still related to talent attraction and talent retention. So interestingly, because there's the same narrative you kind of hear if you read some sort of the doom stories, particularly on LinkedIn, next professional service firm shutting, like closing off 20,000 roles because they can't be upskilled for AI. But actually, we still see that need for talent really critical and front of mind of kind of HR leaders. And if you look at the PwC CEO survey, the talent still sits up there as a sort of their top five concerns around sort of limiting to growth. So I think it's despite some of sort of the maybe sort of the articles get prominence, actually it's still a critical issue around sort of the talent piece, and benefits is a key way of being able to kind of keep that employee engaged. We see from our data and from sort of latest Gallup study that those who have got highly engaged workforce or engaged employees deliver 23% better profitability, 18% better productivity, 43% lower turnover, and can deliver up to 3 times total shareholder return for their organization versus something in the lower quartile. So whilst those are some of those dynamics there, the importance of having a engaged, talented workforce still kind of speaks to it, even in the world of kind of AI maybe coming for the roles. And probably even on top of that, what we're seeing is whilst AI is automating some tasks, even if some of those roles might sort of fall prey to them, actually what we're seeing is that for those roles that are left are having to do more, but also more highly valued, and therefore that talent becomes even more critical. So it's definitely sort of an interesting sort of market that we're living in at the moment, as everyone starts to kind of settle down and work out, what does the future shape of their organization look like? What is workforce plan? What roles are potentially going to sort of go to AI? It can't be eliminated to AI, but similarly, according to the World Economic Forum, there'll be 190 million new jobs created thanks to AI. So there seems to be still a lot of opportunity out there, and making sure you get the right talent to do that is going to be key.
And I guess in terms of retention as well, it helps, right? There's this newish term out there, job hugging. Have you heard that one?
I haven't heard that one.
So job hugging, the essential notion is folks are a bit more fearful about being replaced and whatnot by AI. They're holding on to where they are at right now and not so interested in moving away. And I guess if they've got a good benefits package, that's another reason why you're going to keep your best.
Very much so.
Love it. 3-word answer there. Very much so. Okay. Let's talk now about changing workforce demographics. From what you're seeing and some of the reports you've mentioned so far already, how are changing workforce demographics and employee expectations influencing decisions around benefits, flexibility, and workplace culture?
I had the term multi-generational workforce used quite a lot in my career, but actually I think this is probably the first time where it feels like it is truly multi-generational in most generations in the workplace at one time, where you've got, dare I say, Gen Z, whatever that might mean, but kind of that entering the workforce at the fastest rate ever. You've got people staying in roles for longer as retirement age increases, but also the inability to kind of retire because of the cost of living. And then in the middle of that, like myself, the sandwich generation, which has got sort of dual care and responsibilities for young families, and not just babies, but kind of young teens, young adults, as well as elderly relatives. That is providing kind of for benefits is a really kind of complex environment for them to navigate, simply because, a one size doesn't fit all. And that need around what someone's coming in at the start of their career is required at the end of their career, but also what their expectation levels are, is making it a really kind of interesting and slightly tricky for HR leaders to navigate. But I think what we're starting to see is, and this is where some of the technology developments are going to start to, I think, kind of become more important, which is that flexibility driving the right workforce culture needs to be personalized. As I said, the one size fits all doesn't really work. And when I started to say, you're delighted to get a pension, private medical insurance, and a cycle to work scheme. Now it's much more kind of unique. And actually, what I don't want to do is we're seeing that Gen Z don't want to kind of have to go and find the benefits. They want them sort of supported to them. They want, a bit like how they might kind of look at order and delivery or Spotify, that instant kind of like, I just should be able to be served it and personalized to me, because that's the experience they have through all other aspects of their life, through to then for supporting that sandwich generation, where we can start to see now they are operating at, from our latest research that we do something called the Modern Family Index. That population is, say they are 29% of them operate at a consistently high level of stress, and 43% of them are looking to change jobs because of their caring needs. Now, as a benefits leader, that those tend to be the most sort of middle senior managers. Normally, you're looking at a replacement cost of anywhere between 90 to 100,000 in terms of cost, but then productivity drops will stop. So how do you then make sure you are shaping your benefits that really support and give them and not just shape them and provide them, but how do you make people aware of them? So as you start to see these trends happen, part of the challenge that we see is actually how do you make the people who need them at the point they need them aware of what they have and make it really easy for them to engage with it and make it flexible. So it might be for this next 6 months, I need increased kind of care to support my nan who's about to go into a care home, but actually after that, my daughter might be starting university and navigating some of the challenges there. I might need some additional support around how I can provide kind of parenting and support her through that process. So that flexibility and that awareness is definitely something, as the shifts in generations happening, benefits in have to become a lot more smart about how they deliver the right personalized solutions at the right time to the right populations and have it segmented, versus just this being like the old internet of like, here's your benefits page, go hunt. That's starting to provide both opportunity but also significant challenges for organizations to keep pace with that.
You have conversations with HR leaders all the time, maybe recapping a wee bit of what you've explained so far and adding a bit more to it. Give us a couple of minutes now to explain how HR leaders can build that compelling business case, when they're at the top table for investing in family support, caregiving resources and employee wellbeing programs.
So the way HR leaders can build a compelling business case is, it really is to start and see. They can see it through their employee kind of engagement surveys, kind of what's happening there. And actually the impact of that we can see through research that shows that a highly engaged workforce are not only more productive, they're more they drive better profitability, but also they're not looking to change jobs. And so actually when you look at that total cost of recruitment, of having to replace roles, of having to losing people to sickness, versus also the productivity gap, that for me is that is a really compelling case. Some of the challenges though they face is, and what we see with a lot of the clients that we work with is when I started to build the case for benefits, because I would say sort of post-COVID, what we're seeing is, most of our benefits teams are managing between 30 to 40 different providers. And what that does is, although it provides choice, actually from a user perspective, it creates, rather than taking mental load off the individual, it's creating more mental load. So we had an example. We were working with a global tech company the other day, and they just showed us their benefits page for their employees around family care. In that single page, which from everything from becoming a new parent to having school-age children to having teenagers, they had 11 different providers across a relatively small part of their benefits portfolio. And some points they were offering 2 different providers for the same service. What you've just done is to say to the end sort of employee, but by the way, we know you need this, but we're going to make sure you now need to register with 11 different companies. We've got 11 different types of policies, some that you'll get for free, some that you'll do co-pay. Oh, and by the way, you're going to get your inbox bombarded with 11 different types of messages. So actually what we see then is whilst there's a real clear case of, by providing benefits to create an engaged workforce, the actual experience means that it's a lot of friction. It's hard to engage with. And then actually from a HR point of view, because that data sits in 11 or different providers' systems, to aggregate that, to understand patterns, to insights impact utilization, it's really difficult. And that gets put back onto the HR team to do that. And their challenge is they lack the data and the systems to be able to aggregate that data and pull those insights out without a lot of manual workarounds. And that's just time, frankly, they don't have, because they're managing a multitude of other different things, as well as the 30 or 40 just day-to-day relationships with providers. So I think kind of the case is clear, kind of when you demonstrate kind of offering benefits that help drive that engagement. I think some of the challenge they face is be able to take a step back, and actually what we're starting to see is a consolidation in the benefit space around some of these areas, because it's just unmanageable, and it's stopping the HR and the benefits team being able to have a strategic conversation with their senior leadership or with the FD or with the CEO around what they need to be doing to support their workforce, because they are just literally firefighting sort of the day-to-day admin. So I think that consolidation is going to help address some of that. And then the second part to that is being able to provide sort of data and systems that kind of aggregate. What's been really interesting, having been on the L&D world for a long time, is that feels like it's light years ahead of where the benefit space has been. A lot of it's still very manual workaround, and trying to extract data out of ERP systems is a thing which would kind of been referred to like Dante's ninth circle of hell. So we're not making it easier for HR leaders to build that compelling case, because they will need to be able to demonstrate the ROI. So I think if we can address some of the systems issues, and we can help sort of reduce some of that friction from the employees being able to access the benefits and have them served in a really kind of joined up way, that will improve utilization. That then helps us reinforce that engaged workforce, which makes them a much more compelling business case. So it sounds simple when you say it like that, but it's definitely not an easy thing. And that's something that is very much top of our mind as we work with our clients on how can we enable that for them, so they are able to kind of use their own data rather than taking sort of just benchmarking data or sector data, to be able to play back tangible impact of the services that they offer for their people, and the value it delivers to not just them but to the broader organization.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. We are coming towards the end of this show. Just a couple more questions for you. Next up, what are you guys doing then at work and family to help HR leaders successfully navigate some of these changes?
It's a great question. And so work and family has traditionally been built on being able to provide emergency care. So when care breaks down, you need a childcare urgently, you need someone to come and look after your dad after a fall, and you've got to go traveling for work. That's typically where we've played for a long time. Where we're seeing now to help sort of HR leaders navigate these changes is actually moving beyond just that emergency care, and looking how do we provide sort of those services around giving access to expert support and guidance for working families and carers. So things like understanding that concierge. So if you are having a parent who's got diagnosis around and requires care, you can actually talk to an expert who can help you navigate the choices and look at the different care choices available to you, but also provide things like speak to an expert. So, whether it might be around weaning through to how do I manage sort of teenage children who might seem to be disengaged. So there's a range of sort of different experts. So it's supporting not just when care breaks down, but all the bits in between that a lot of the parents and carers have as a lot of heavy mental load. And then it's been able to provide not just emergency care, but also planned care solutions. So things like offering support, how we can build workplace nurseries, looking at nursery partnerships to help reduce the sort of cost of childcare living, as well as things like our school holiday clubs where parents know when school holidays are coming, the ability to be able to book some of that support in advance rather than waiting to the point of crisis is something that just helps them reduce that stress. And then finally, as we talked about with the evolving need of work and people's roles, is to support them with coaching, but also sort of new upskilling and reskilling programs that help organizations kind of move and help their people sort of meet the evolving needs of their roles as the business kind of continues to change. So those three pillars together at the scale that we do, so not just in the UK, but in the US as well as India and increasingly more globally, allows us to be a global partner to our clients and help them support their working parents and carers kind of wherever they are across those different needs.
Just finally for today, Chris, how can folks connect with you? So is that LinkedIn? Do you want to share your email? I bet you're a super cool dad who's all over TikTok and places. And of course, how can folks learn more about Bright Horizons?
By all means, please connect with me on LinkedIn. I have been banned from my children from ever going on TikTok or Instagram for fear that their friends find me and I'm doing dad dancing. But yeah, please connect with me on LinkedIn. Otherwise, you can reach me at chris.locke@brighthorizons.com. And for those of you attending the Disrupt HR in London, I look forward to seeing you there.
Rock and roll. That just leaves me to say for today, Chris Locke, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining me for your first time on this show. I'm sure I'll be bothering you to come back on again in the near future. And listeners, as always, until next time, happy working.
Thanks for listening to the HR Chat Show. If you enjoyed this episode, why not subscribe and listen to some of the hundreds of episodes published by HR Gazette? And remember, for what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit hrgazette.com.